going to be to completely strip the paint out of this. Of course, you can use sandpaper, you can use acetone, but the first step will be to use aircraft paint remover. This is basically like the gasket remover. It's got the same active ingredients. It's great stuff. We're also going to go ahead and take the tone-on pieces. Now, because the tone-on pieces need to be sprayed all the way around, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead and basically put it right there, so that way it hits the whole general area. If it doesn't strip the part, it's not a big deal. And then we'll also get that too in just a moment. Actually, what I'm going to kind of put that right there, because I can always spray the platter a little bit later on. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Good to go. You'll notice the paint is already starting to bubble up a little bit. It's kind of hard to tell. Let me see if I can do it with my finger. No, you really can't. But right over here, the part that I just covered, that's starting to bubble up. Whereas the part in the middle is not bubbling up as much. Once we get done, we're going to take a handy dandy, you really can't see it, brush scraper. We're going to start our wire scraper, the ones used to clean barbecue grills. We're going to start cleaning that up. Make sure to wear a safety mask, because, well, this stuff isn't fun to breathe in. You might also want to wear gloves, of which I don't have any. So I'm going to use sandwich bags, possibly. Different paints have different reaction times. What we're noticing here is that it's very goopy. So it technically hasn't really started, I mean, it's working, but it's not working quite yet. So I'm just going to real quick see how far this goes, if it goes past the original paint all the way down to the aluminum. And as you can see, by zooming in here, Johnny.
So far the stickers in.
Great. As you can see, it's already going down to the aluminum, but again, it's very goopy. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to use this to prepare an acid wash for the turntable to clean it off. We're going to put a little small thing of acetone in the bottom. We're going to shake it back and forth and start giving it a nice, clean. I would love to have enough acetone to just be able to dip things in there for a bit, but you're talking about 5 to 10 gallons, which is about several amounts of dollars that I really don't want to spend right now. This is just as effective, especially when all the paint has been stripped out. Okay, so you'll notice that it's coming off with little effort. At least it's getting down to the original primer of this. And then with some scraping, it goes down to the aluminum. So it's doing a much better job than it was before. Again, if I go here, I just scrape all the way down. Again, it's taking the paint right down to the aluminum. You'll see the gray base of the original color and primer. You want to make sure that you use a plastic scraper. If you use a metal one like this, you need to have a very even hand because you can etch the aluminum. Now, while that's not going to do too much when it comes to primering and painting, it does make things a little bit difficult when it comes to getting a nice mirror-like finish. Like that, we're just going to scribble a little bit of everything. Again, make sure you buy gloves. I thought I had some, and apparently I did not. You'll notice I'm using a much bigger glove, or bag. Again, buy yourself gloves. Make sure that they're plastic gloves and not the kind that get eaten out by acid. This crap really burns. Now, the other turntable that I did, you can spray directly on the paint, and it's going to look just fine. But in the middle of sanding and everything else, you will chip part of the old paint, and that's what happened to me. So there's a couple parts that, not that they're uneven, but you can see where the original paint ends and aluminum begins because there's that little, bump. So I'm going to do it 100% right this time, now that I learned from the other one. You'll notice it took everything right down to the... Actually, left the paper on there. Now, I thought that was kind of interesting. It didn't mess too much with the sticker on there, but it did strip it down. What we have left is some sort of either primer or adhesive. The paint that was on here, it's still intact until I, scrub it off and all that. So again, this glue is actually this stuff is pretty potent on paint. but it seems to leave everything else alone, except your hand, of course. And now, okay, so you will notice that there is a difference. This is the stuff that never even touched the aircraft stripper, and this is what did. And that's with a little bit of brushing there. This is a well-insulated area, of course, and you always want to make sure you work in a well-insulated area. Every now and then I forget. Luckily, a pink dragon named Charlie helps me remember that acetone should be used in a well-ventilated area. If either way, you still want to wear proper breathing gear. Oh my God, it's not like I'm claustrophobic or anything. We're going to use acetone by Clean Strip. Doesn't matter who you use it by. Acetone is fast evaporating. That's going to prevent that from happening. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take sandpaper. We're going to sand this sucker right down. So let's do that. Don't do this by hand. Make sure you use a proper sanding block for it. You want a nice even sand. And if you don't have a sanding block, go ahead and buy yourself one because you're going to need it for the actual wet sanding. So again, nice circular motions. You're going to notice that a lot of it's already starting to go away. If need be, you can take some scissors and just very lightly scrape all the paint off the sandpaper, and there's still sand underneath that can be used. If it's embedded in there, don't scratch it too hard. Even if it rips the sand out, you want to, do this anyway so it doesn't continue rubbing more paint debris. So that's not going to help you any. And when sanding, again, circular motions, don't push down. Let the sandpaper work itself and add just a little bit of moderate pressure. With the proper tools, you shouldn't have to use a lot of elbow grease.
40.
Another trick is, instead of using scissors, you can just go like that to get the paint off the sandpaper. You'll notice that that's actually doing an even better job on the other side that I haven't been sanding as much. And again, nice circular motions. I'm going to go ahead and take these out for a second. We're going to scratch them down a bit. Okay. These are the most important parts because I had a lot of issues getting the paint to grab to these buggers. Again, I'm not too worried about this part because this is going to be right underneath, so it's not really going to matter. Let's go ahead and put these back in. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and just give it a nice scrub. Not all of it came out, but it's okay. It's alright. Again, I'm using 220 grit. And if you zoom in on here, you'll notice that it is coming out fairly easily. Sometimes you need something a little bit stronger though. How nicely, not a lot of pressure, and it takes it right off. Yeah, this is much smoother. Now, of course, it's impossible to take off all the paint, but just do the best that you can.
It's recording.
So now, basically, we're going to go ahead and just dump all the acetone in there. Boy, it feels like there's a lot less acetone in this one than the last container. And basically, you'll notice here, we're just going to kind of scrub it in there. Now, if you have enough acetone to fill one of these up completely, that's even better, but I'm just going to scrub it in there just to give it a nice final strip.
Yeah, it is dirty.
You'll notice there that it's incredibly dirty. That means that it's obviously picking something up. This next part you can do in your bathtub or in your shower. It doesn't really matter, but I'm going to do it here. because it's filled with acetone or whatnot. At the same time, it'll dilute the acetone. It didn't really scrape all the paint out of here, but even though I'm going to take some scissors, I'm just going to kind of scrape this up a bit, even past the aluminum. The reason is I want to create a nice edge so the Bondo grabs it. So we're going to take that. We're good. Next, we're going to take the water hose. We're just going to go ahead and clean it. We're going to clean it with none else. Handiest soap of all, and that's Dawn soap. Here.